Welcome to the Who Are We session. In this session, we're going to do a couple of things. One is I'm going to give an overview of the GCSP community and kind of where we stand today, presently. And then we'll also have some comments by Thor Misko, who's from the Kern Family Foundation, and we'll get to that towards the end. It was great to hear the stories of those who founded GCSP in the last session and the original visions and aims of GCSP, which still resonate with all of us today. Borrowing from Rick Miller's comment, GCSP is a mechanism for really changing who we are. Their efforts to begin the GCSP led to a community of passionate, skilled alumni and students working to address global challenges, and faculty and administrators to support them in their journey to success. Now, in this session, I'd like to take a few minutes to look at who we are as a GCSP community today. We are a community of scholars, leaders, engineers, problem solvers, and change makers who have made and continue to make a difference in the world by addressing grand challenges and other global challenges. Grand challenges scholars, as we all know, are united in the characteristics they have, the 5 competencies or pillars of GCSP. They have talent, they apply interdisciplinary thinking, are entrepreneurially minded, have multicultural awareness, and act with social consciousness. And they are united to solve complex global challenges, including the grand challenges for engineering, to support the NAE's vision, continuation of life on the planet, making our world more sustainable, secure, healthy, and joyful. Our community has experienced tremendous growth and expansion globally over the last several years, and we'll take a look at that next. But first, I want to get a sense of who is here from the GCSP community in this session today. So please complete this quick Zoom poll. I'll get it going here. To basically to tell us who you are. There's, I think, 3 questions in the poll. So you can scroll down and complete each of the questions. And I'll pause for a minute to give you guys all a chance to complete the poll. But if you'd also like to share what institution you are from specifically in the chat, please feel free to do that as well, and we can see who's here. I'm just going to wait one more minute to see if I get a few more responses on the poll, and then we'll share the results and look at them together. Meanwhile, I'm loving seeing all the names of the universities in the chat. Many, many different ones represented, which is awesome. All right, great. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share our results. All right, so you guys can all probably see these poll results along with me today. So we've got a good combination of people, lots of undergraduate students, which is great to see, GCSP directors, other faculty, staff, etc. And I put on some other roles on there so that some of you may have had multiple roles to match with, just to see how many of us are engineers, or industry professionals, and others, other roles related to GCSP. Where we're currently located, mostly North America, but we do have some people from other countries. Thank you all for joining us. We weren't as time zone friendly probably to you as we are to North America. If you're in the US, all across the US, awesome. That's almost a pretty equal distribution there, with a little bit lower in Midwest. Awesome. Very cool. All right. And I didn't share the results. I'm sorry. Now you can see the results. I apologize for that. All right. Great. So it looks like we have a good sampling of the community here today, but our community is much larger than this. So let's look at some maps together. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing those results so you guys can see those. So this map contains all the schools that we currently have in the Grand Challenges Scholars Program Network with approved GCSP programs. So to date, the GCSP network contains 92 institutions with approved GCSPs in 13 different countries. And that even includes a few community colleges. There's been an expansion to community colleges over the past few years. There are more than 1,200 GCSP alumni that are now working or pursuing further studies across the world. And currently, there are 44 additional institutions who are in the process of developing proposals or being mentored to establish a GCSP at their institutions. And this map shows where all of those schools are located. This community is expansive, and those numbers don't completely capture the extent of our members' reach. Of course, at each of those 92 institutions, there are many students engaged in GCSP, faculty, et cetera. And those students are all developing skills that they need to become engineering leaders and work to solve challenges to positively impact society today and in the future. As a GCSP community, we've also engaged in many different activities over the past years. I will name just a few here. There's many more, some of which have already been mentioned in other sessions today. In addition to our GCSP annual meetings, which brings us together every year over the past several years, many members of our community have engaged globally as well through the Global Grand Challenges Summits. The most recent one was held in London in 2019, and the event provided many of our students the opportunity to collaborate over a few days on global teams in a student competition focused on innovation, design, and business development. There have also been 3 GCSP workshops held internationally to engage a broader audience in GCSP, and a European chapter of the GCSP was formed with its first meeting near the end of 2019. In recent years, there have also been several efforts to encourage collaboration and connections between students and faculty within the GCSP community, including regional meetups, GCSP Entrepreneurial Experience Summer Program for students throughout the network, Grand Challenges Speaker Series, and industry workshops. And earlier this year, GCSP alumni, students, and leaders joined together to collaborate with other engineering professionals on the NAE COVID-19 Call for Engineering Action, which you'll hear more about tomorrow. And I'm sure there are many other activities and accomplishments that could be added to this list that some of us just don't know about to add to the list. These activities illustrate the energy, enthusiasm, and extensive efforts of the GCSP community. They also illustrate community members' efforts to connect and collaborate with each other in order to bring additional value to members of the GCSP community and to society at large. To look at another perspective of who we are as a GCSP community, I'd like to show a video for a few minutes here that highlights the value of the Grand Challenges Scholars Program from various perspectives: industry, alumni, and faculty. As we talked about today, those are all very important perspectives and important and people that will play important roles in the future of GCSP. This video was created at a GCSP focused industry workshop that we hosted at ASU earlier this year. So I'm going to go ahead and try to play this video, and hopefully, actually, I'm going to escape out of this. I already have it over here, and we will try this out.
Programs like GCSP offer students who are passionate already the chance to do a lot of extracurricular activities, the chance to link with a network of like-minded students, the chance to pursue interdisciplinarity in ways that are outside of their traditional classrooms. These kind of programs also help build a network of engineers as they go out into the world and become practicing engineers. The importance of these programs can't really be underestimated because they create a sense of wonder about the world and a sense of curiosity. And those are the 2 most important attributes of a really good engineer.
We want our students to think about what's important to them What are they passionate about? And how can their education help fuel their passions? What skills do they need as students? And how can we set them on the direction that they really want for the rest of their careers, or at least the beginning of their careers, that then continues on into the future?
It's very important that students understand they're not just studying engineering, but the economic impacts of the engineering they're doing and the decisions that they make in the design process throughout the value chain and the enterprise, including cost impacts, schedule, and risk. Those are all critical. So in a program like GCSP, the more that you can incorporate those types of learning experiences and concepts in above and beyond just the core engineering effort, will make you much more valuable to industry and prepare you for an industry career in the future.
GCSP impacted my career because it really gave me a broader set of experiences that I was able to draw on in a variety of different ways. It showed me different pathways where I could be doing international work, where I could be doing more service-oriented work, where I could be doing more entrepreneurial work.
I think one of the biggest things with GCSP, again, goes back to the looking at problems in different ways and understanding that problems can have different approaches. Sometimes a very technical engineering approach isn't the only way to go. Sometimes it's working with other people and collaborating to come up with a different solution. Sometimes it might take a more business-focused approach. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at problems that people might think are just traditionally engineering problems. And I think GCSP helps you get a bigger picture of what those things can look like and what potential solutions can look like.
What this program has taught me is to how to not only understand technical-wise what I'm doing, but also how to communicate it to those that do not have the same technical background.
And I think the skills that I was able to take away from GCSP has made me a much more adaptable, much more fast learning, much more kind of quick thinking engineer.
In today's day and age, it takes way too long to build a product and bring it to market. Companies are looking for people who can hit the road running, be able to make decisions, do the studies that they need to. But when they think they've got it right, which is a real frustrating point for a lot of engineers, have to change at the last minute. So hence the flexibility to learn and talk and listen and understand, but be able to think on their feet and change, yet keep the focus on creating a quality product.
Engineers are typically trained in a very specific functional silo. What we're learning as we move forward is that the really exciting problems occur at the boundaries between those functional disciplines. And so an interdisciplinary approach, an interdisciplinary systems thinking approach, really becomes critical to understanding not just the possible solutions, but to understand how to evaluate those solutions, to think about different ways of solving the same problem, and to provide a global set of insights that are culturally acceptable, that deal with the context in which those innovations or engineering solutions will be used.
So collaborating with other parts of the world is critical. Understanding their needs and their requirements is very critical. And basically having that as part of their mindset, that it's not just something I'm doing in my backyard anymore, but it's something for global consumption.
Interdisciplinary global perspective is more critical today and will become even more so into the future because products are systems of systems, they're Internet of Things. You will not work on just one piece of the product in an island. You will have to integrate that product across technologies and disciplines to make it effective for customers' use in the marketplace.
The entrepreneurial mindset really helps students or engineers, practicing engineers, think about the big picture first, understand what the problem is, understand how different solutions might solve it, understand the stakeholders, and really see that whole big picture piece of it.
So Grand Challenge Scholars Program really is a lot of value for industry. It helps us in higher ed create students, graduates if you will, that really are prepared with what I call 21st century skills. All of the types of competencies that they involve and work on when they're in the Grand Challenge Scholars Program broaden their perspective, broaden their breadth, help them apply multiple things at once. So they come out the gate much better prepared to hit the ground running and be of value.
Okay. So as we know, and as that just reiterated, Grand Challenge Scholars are passionate, valued problem solvers and have the support of this entire community behind them. We, the GCSP community, are an amazing, valuable community of scholars, leaders, problem solvers, and change makers who continue to create value in the world. We have a bright future ahead of us, and I'm excited to see how we'll continue to grow and thrive. But we don't have to do it alone. Our work can benefit from the support of and collaboration with others with similar goals. One network that has goals that align very well with GCSP is the Kern Entrepreneurial Engineering Network, also known as KEEN. ASU and many other members of the GCSP community have already participated in and worked on several activities, including this meeting, enabled by the synergy of KEEN and GCSP. And we'll continue to have opportunities to do so in the future. At this point, I'm pleased to introduce Thor Misko, Program Director and Team Leader at the Kern Family Foundation, to provide some remarks about the Kern Entrepreneurial Engineering Network, or KEEN.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. And I look forward to giving you a kind of a flyover real quick on entrepreneurial mindset. I also wanted to talk to you about KEEN and then wander into a place that we can all collaborate and connect. So thanks for sharing the time. It's always great to come back every year and this year see everyone virtually in the chat fields here. Let me share my screen, as I do want to share a couple slides to help guide our conversation today. So to start off, I just wanted to kind of pose this question. This is a question that actually helped form KEEN back in 2004. So is problem solving and skill set enough to solve any of the engineering grand challenges that are in front of us? And as we've all kind of heard and seen across this entire event, and obviously even before that, because you're all part of the Grand Challenge Scholarship Program, the answer is no to each of these different questions. Right. And so as we found that out, we realized that we all have this design process that helps guide us as engineers. And it looks something like this, depending on whatever discipline we're in. It's more or less the same, but we do things a little bit differently. One thing that we noticed, though, right away when we started asking these questions around the future of engineering and what engineering needs to look like with this collection of institutions from across the country was when we talk about problem solving, for example, and when we talk about design, we're missing something in that equation, right? If we're only talking about problems, we're actually missing kind of the proactive approach, which is seeking opportunities. And so what does that mean, or what does that look like? And so there was a series of different skills that this collection of administrators and faculty members from across the country came up with to start leaning into this idea of opportunity, not just design. And then in addition to that, it was, well, to what end? Why are we designing something? And ultimately it's to create value or have an impact in this world, in the society, in the context that we're talking about. So there was a whole additional series of different skills that we felt were necessary for the engineers to lean into and understand. And that became what was known as the complementary skills within KEEN's framework. So this framework then became a kind of guiding light to help create a communication mechanism, a conversational piece. So when somebody says, well, what are we doing around opportunity? What are we doing around design or impact? How are you helping foster these skills? There was a language that could be used across this network. And I want you to put that frame of mind around the 5 characteristics as you're listening into this and seeing all these different synergies that Amy mentioned and many others have mentioned throughout this process as well. But when we talk about, okay, design is not enough, we talked about problem solving is not enough, but we also then challenged this idea that skill set was not enough. So what does that even mean? What does that look like? One of my favorite conversations that I had was when I was actually at Rose-Hulman. And I was in the audience of a meeting, and there was a conversation that was being had amongst faculty and administrators at Rose-Hulman. And the question was posed, think about your most successful students. No one defined what success was. No one mentioned anything around that, but ultimately people were popping into every faculty member's mind, actual people, actual students that they worked with. And then the question was posed, were they successful because of their skill set or because of their mindset, right? Their attitudes, their motivations, and their dispositions. And it caused everyone to pause in the audience and think about that for a second. And the comment was, well, it's not one or the other, right? They're both important. But if you had to put, a percentage on each of those 2 items, what would you put? And I've been in that conversation now hundreds of times in different institutions across the country. And the answer is always the same. It's never less than 50-50 when we ask faculty this question. It's typically more like 70-30 leaning towards mindset. So when then the comment was, well, what are we doing to help foster that mindset that we think drives success within our students? And what is that mindset? That's where the network continued to kind of lean in and created something that you may have heard of if you've been to these meetings in the past, but that was the 3 C's. So that leaned into this idea of skill set being power, mindset being direction. Okay, the direction was, well, we need students that have that curiosity, right? Both that epistemic curiosity to ask the questions like why, but also the divergent curiosity that becomes a habit of mind that gets into the what if questions. What if? Rick Miller had a great statement that talked about engineers being visionary and looking and kind of envisioning what isn't and making it so. Well, the same is true if we have that curiosity and we're also able to make connections and gain insight from those curiosities, right? So connections is an important aspect that also leans into something you just heard about in that video, which is proactively assessing and managing risk. So everything that we do as engineers or as value creators, no matter if we're engineers or not, we have to be thinking about that, right? Walking across the street has risk associated with it, but we determine that it's important enough to walk across that street, and we know how to look both ways and make sure that we're doing the things that we need to do on crosswalks and so on and so forth to make it across that street safely. The same thing is true in everything we do, and it becomes more and more complicated as the complication of the problems increase. But it gets back to that last part, which is really around understanding and creating value for others. It's that perseverance, because most things worth doing are not easy. And I think all of you have talked about that when it was great to hear the students reiterate the importance of this work. So what does this all mean? What does this look like? This collection of institutions said, well, the engineer we need really needs to have this entrepreneurial mindset, right? It's the mindset that all engineers need. It's not about the subset of engineers that are going to go into starting their own business, which some get confused on because of the word entrepreneurial, but rather no matter where they go and what they're going to do, every engineer needs that entrepreneurial mindset, but they need it also coupled with engineering thought and action, which gets to that skill set and understanding the components that are there. We need to be able to collaborate. We need to be able to communicate. And ultimately, the last thing you want to do is equip someone of poor character with an entrepreneurial mindset. So we want to make sure that that character formation that Giannis and others have mentioned numerous times was pulled forward in the work that we're doing, even in higher ed engineering. So this resulted in basically now you're looking at that paragraph broken down on your left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, you're seeing some different actual learning outcomes that are associated with that. So how can we actually assess or evaluate our student success in these areas? And how can we be intentional about weaving this in when we talk about mindset, not just the skills that we want our students to have? So these collection of institutions that form this network, which are 51 strong across the country, have basically made a commitment to saying that we are going to graduate all of our engineers so that they have this entrepreneurial mindset, right? This isn't something that we're doing for 1% or 5% or 10%, but rather we believe that every engineer needs to have this. And we're going to be intentional about doing that as part of the way we educate our students. So it's been great to see this come to life over the last couple decades now in the country. One of the things that's also been very synergistic around these organizations is that many of the organizations are the same. So more than 27 of the current partners and 3 additional ones are seeking becoming Grand Challenge Scholars programs. So that's already over 50%, and it'll be leaning towards about 60% once they move through the proposal process. So that was something that we kept seeing, we kept hearing, and the Grand Challenge Scholars Program has been also an opportunity for people to lean into this with a subset of students and then saying, well, what could we do for all students in different areas? And that's where the work of Keen and this network has really come to bear. Well, it's not just those that are partners that can benefit from this. And so one of the things that was happening over time was that we created a communication mechanism to talk and share things and ideas and curriculum and concepts and papers and research and whatever it might be that you wanted to share and connect and engage with other people around on a platform called Engineering Unleashed. And instead of keeping this closed to the network said, well, this isn't about being closed. This is about being open to anyone who believes in this mission as well, in this movement. So how do we open that up? And that's what I wanted to quickly just walk you through for a minute here and just show you a couple items on Engineering Unleashed that might spark your curiosity. And this is a network, unfortunately, it's not for students. It's designed for faculty, staff, administrators. We also have some industrial partners that are engaging and participating in this as well, to really think through how do we prepare students, how do we engage students. But there's a whole series of information if you wanted to know more about this entrepreneurial mindset that I gave you the flyover 30-second version of. If you want to know more about Keen, if you want to understand some of the impacts, events, the things that are going on. But most importantly, this is a network that is collaborating and connecting, and there's a lot of ways to do that. And I'm just going to show you, for example, something that you might be interested in is maybe Grand Challenges. So within this current network, of over 3,000 faculty that are participating on this online open community, there are 119 different items in this community that are related to the Grand Challenges in some shape, form, or fashion. You're seeing some familiar names in here. You actually just saw a video that maybe comes out of some work here that we're looking at. And this is a card, which is a kind of flexible container for any content that anyone wants to share, that allows people to contextualize the work that you're doing on your campus in some way, understand how it connects to that skill set and mindset outcomes. What are the learning objectives if it's something that is curricular based or extracurricular? And then you can organize just like you would in folders with different files, links to anything and everything you want, whether it be a video, another website, or whether you be uploading a paper, whether you be uploading a PowerPoint presentation, a syllabus, activity from your course. There's all kinds of great resources that you can find and use within this platform. So this is just something I wanted to share briefly because I do think it could be beneficial for anyone and everyone that's on this call. Unfortunately, not for students yet. We don't have anything that's designed for students at this point, but all of the faculty, staff, administrators, or even industry professionals that are curious and engaging and helping foster the next generation of undergraduate engineers. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Amy to close us out.
All right. Thank you very much, Thor. Awesome. And we have definitely used that Engineering Unleashed platform. Several of the members in the GCSP community, we've done a lot of collaborations and have a lot of connections through that platform as well that we can build upon. Awesome. So this concludes this session. Our next session will be the networking sessions, which will begin at 4:15 p.m. Eastern time. For this session, it's going to be a little bit different. You won't actually come to this Zoom link at all. For this session, there's going to be 9 different individual Zoom rooms hosted by various people for different discussion topics. Several of them are industry members hosting rooms from organizations such as Chubb, FedEx Freight, Siemens, Ford, General Motors, and Arizona Department of Transportation. There will also be hosted networking sessions, including graduate school discussions for graduate students, alumni that are graduate students, and also undergraduate students interested in grad school, GCSP leader networking for faculty or staff or administrators involved in the programs, and also the prospective GCSP schools Q&A that Katie mentioned earlier today. So to learn more about the networking session topics and find the Zoom links to join that you're interested in, go to the networking session link on the agenda page on our website. And I think that just got put in the chat, so you guys can see that information there. Awesome. Thank you all for joining us for this session. And thank you again to Thor for talking a little bit about Keen and entrepreneurial mindset and Engineering Unleashed. And we hope to see you guys at the next session and then again tomorrow morning. Thank you.